After there were certain rumblings last week or the week before about the Minnesota Vikings preferring to have Michael Penix Jr. over J.J. McCarthy, the truth is coming out. If you can handle the truth, as Jack Nicholson once said in A Few Good Men, one of the greatest movies of all time. You can't handle the truth. But here we go. Kevin Seifert of ESPN, one of the insiders that has intel on the Minnesota Vikings, has shared an report on the Minnesota Vikings offseason, and it was a long, lengthy article on ESPN.com, the Ocho, and it's revealed. The truth will set us free, as Jim Carrey said in Liar, Liar. Contact Oakland Farms first, though, at 952-491-1541 and get the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. This beef is sold in quarters and halves, and they have custom sample packs so you can try before you buy in bulk. Get sirloin steaks, T-bone steaks, beef, chuck roast, and more. All you have to do is contact Oakland Farm at 952-491-1541 and mention the Minnesota Tim podcast to get 20% off your first order.
With no regard for human life.
It's that easy. Contact Oakland Farm today. So as I was saying, Kevin Seifert came out with this report on ESPN.com talking about the Minnesota Vikings transition from Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold to J.J. McCarthy to all of that beeswax and stuff. And he said this in his article. He said, in preparation for not moving into the top three, Adolfo Mensah called Jets general manager Joe Douglas before the draft to map out a potential move to number 10 if necessary. Then the waiting game began. McCarthy was next on the Minnesota Vikings priority list ahead of Penix. Many around the league had paired Penix's downfield mentality and quick release with O'Connell's offensive philosophy, but the Vikings felt confident that J.J. McCarthy had similar capacities. Michigan's offense simply hadn't asked him to use them. And at 21, 3 years younger than Penix, McCarthy had more potential for growth. So when Judd Zolgad came on Score North, which is a tremendous show, and said there was rumblings that the Minnesota Vikings wanted Penix Jr. over McCarthy, I came out and said, I believe they wanted McCarthy. I believe that's the guy that people were speculating or rumoring that the Minnesota Vikings would trade up to number 5 to get with the Los Angeles Chargers. And I didn't necessarily have very good reasons besides he just looked like a Minnesota Viking from the get-go. All offseason, I've been saying it. J.J. McCarthy's a Minnesota Viking. Before the NFL season was over, I was on it. J.J. McCarthy's going to be a Minnesota Viking. When people wanted to say that they're going to trade up for Drake May, I said no. The Patriots ain't going to get rid of that pick. It's not going to happen. They need a quarterback, and it's the most important position in football. The Minnesota Vikings are going to draft J.J. McCarthy. And that's exactly what happened. And the way that he plays football looks like a Minnesota Vikings quarterback. He does not look like a guy that is going to put his entire team on his back and carry them like a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen does for their respective squads. He looks like a guy that is going to be asked to make third down throws when necessary, just like every quarterback in the NFL, but not necessarily asked to do much outside of a certain comfort zone that he is in. You know, you talk about the old cliche of, you need a ground game to open up the pass game, which is true for every single team, but it is more true for other quarterbacks because when you have Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, you don't necessarily need as powerful or as strong as a run game because they're such great throwers of the football. With a J.J. McCarthy, you need to have the team around him in place in order to have success. He's not going to overcompensate for guys on that come up short in other parts of the squad. So I don't even know where I was going with that, but that's just my takeaway on J.J. McCarthy. That's what I've been saying all year. He is 21 years old, and it even says it right here. I was getting crapped on, like literally crapped on by people that are associated with Michigan for saying that J.J. McCarthy was not asked to do much at Michigan. He was carried to a national championship by his great teammates and head coach. And in Kevin Seifert's article, it says Michigan's offense simply hadn't asked him to use them. It literally says it right there. So stuff your face with it and suck on that, Michigan fans.
Up high, down hard.
Oh, man, I've just been getting gripped and ripped by the J.J. McCarthy homers that are just criticizing me, that are coming out of the woodworks, that are coming out of the cornfields and say, you know what, you are an idiot. You didn't watch Michigan football. Doesn't take a genius when you look at his stat line and you look at he threw the ball 7 times against Penn State to realize that he wasn't asked to do much. But the Minnesota Vikings wanted him over Michael Penix Jr., which makes sense because Penix Jr. has an injury history. He's 3 years older than J.J. McCarthy. And even though some people thought that he could fit in Minnesota's system, and even though he carried Washington all the way to the national championship game and lost, there are too many things to like about J.J. McCarthy over Michael Penix Jr., like letting him sit behind a starter for a year. 3 more years is a long time in the NFL because if you drafted Penix Jr., you feel a pressure to start him right away because he's already 24 years old. You don't want to be starting this guy at 26. And what if he's a bust? Then you got to start all over again. It just didn't make much sense when you looked at it on paper. And the Atlanta Falcons have to answer the same questions because he's 24 years old. Well, Kirk Cousins, they signed him to a 4-year contract. 2 of those years are guaranteed. Do you really want to sit Michael Penix Jr. for 2 years behind Kirk Cousins? And then he's going to be 26 years old. It's like you could have a guy developing behind Kirk Cousins for 2 years, and he still might end up being a bust. And he's going to be 26. It says you're wasting a lot of time and making a massive risk putting a guy that old onto the field for his first time starting. And that's just not something you want to do. If he's 23 years old, well, you start him then you got 3 years to progress into the starting quality quarterback that you want him to be. And he's going to be 26 by the time he's starting if Kirk Cousins plays 2 years for the Atlanta Falcons. So, but anyway, again, I was right again. My goodness, get a little tired of it sometimes. I just wish I was wrong sometimes. But here we go. J.J. McCarthy, the Minnesota Vikings wanted him ahead of Michael Penix Jr. It's almost like I said that. Oh, wait, I did say that. But anyways, I hope you're not tired of me being right. So thank you for watching this episode. And remember to contact Oakland Farm. Remember, tell your friends to subscribe because you will know this information before it actually comes out. That's how on fire I've been on the Minnesota Vikings this year. Justin Jefferson traded? No way. J.J. McCarthy? Oh, yeah. Kirk Cousins leaving? Oh, yeah. Yep. Said all those things. Anyways, thank you for subscribing and thank you for listening to this podcast. Everyone, have a great day.